As Cabrillo sailed up the coastline, it was unknown how far the land tended to the north, how far it tended to the west. On some charts or maps of the period, it looks as though you get about to Santa Barbara and you're there, you're in China. His little fleet made remarkable progress given the fact that they didn't know where they were going, that they were sailing against wind and current, that they were trying to survey and chart the whole route all the way up the coast. And again, they were doing it with 16th century technology.
The sailors were pretty brave guys, they had to be, because these things don't handle very well. It's like an aspect ratio of a watermelon, and it's going to handle like one as well.
You don't get too far north of San Diego before you start to see these Channel Islands.
4 days later, we sighted 2 islands and named them after our ships. Sailing close, we saw many Indians from the bluffs calling to us to come ashore.
Not only do the Channel Islands have people on them, they're one of the longest inhabited places on the face of the earth.
They were well-skilled maritime people that were getting noted back when the first European contact came into the area.
When we saw these great ships, my ancestor, as the chief of the village, rallied her people together to say, hey, we have visitors. Let's welcome them and show them who we are.
It's not a normal thing for people previously unknown to one another to have perfectly amenable relations. And that's not very typical of Spanish behavior in this period at all. But by the standards of the day, this was a pretty benign expedition in terms of relations with the natives.
Cabrillo stayed for a little while on the channel, and then he tried to go further north.
It's against the wind and it's against the current the whole way.
And you can't even sail this thing to weather. All you can do is go downwind. Whatever the wind's blowing is where you're going.
And he basically got driven back, and then he wintered, we think, on San Miguel Island.
But wait! After all these years, Cabrillo's back. Well, not really. But except for the outboard motor, everything looks pretty authentic, doesn't it?
I, Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, native of Portugal, do hereby claim all this land, which I call San Miguel.
We started building the vessel with relatively modern methods.
People walk by all the time going, hey, isn't that cheating? You're using electricity. We always say, well, you know what? If they had electricity and didn't use it, they'd be pretty foolish too.
We located virtually every piece of white oak in the country that met the standard.
Well, they all broke. Almost every rib that came back down on the truck had exploded.
So after purchasing all the material available in the country, we ruined half of it.
Overall, from the very tip of the stern to the end of the bowsprit is about 115 or 20 feet. And there were approximately 100 people on this boat with horses, cows, chickens, pigs, you name it. Sanitation was probably not one of their strong suits.
There were a number of diseases that seafaring life made you subject to. The most fearsome of all was probably scurvy. Your hair falls out, your skin loses its elasticity. Every injury you ever had comes back. So these guys, particularly Cabrillo, had lived violent lives as conquistadors. And when you start to get scurvy and it goes beyond a certain point, it's pretty horrific. All it would have taken would be stepping the wrong way if you'd had a broken bone previously and it would snap.
As I went ashore, my foot slipped on a rock and I fell on my right arm.
Most people think that the contacts had relatively little effect on the shoe mash, but towards the end, I think there was some stress and some strain, and there was saw conflict at Kyler Harbor, and I think that's when Cabrillo fell and got gangrene. Spaniards probably stayed a little too long and pulled off some stunts that the shoe mash weren't real happy with.